ScoMo's Job Maker Package. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heiser here and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I've got my stein of coffee and I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au discussing Scott Morrison's Job Maker Package or getting into bed with unions to change workplace rules. Now, there's going to be a lot of political posturing, a lot of noise about this. Have a look at the interview I did with Stuart Bonds, just looking at how the unions have treated the casual coal mine workers over the last 30 years. Have a look at that, guys. And remember that when we hear all the posturing that is going to be put forward, that it's going to be put forward. For one, I agree there needs to be some workplace reform. I've said many times it needs to be easier to fire someone. It certainly does. And you get idiots in the comments going, oh, you need to improve your interview process and stuff like that. It just shows me it's someone who's never actually hired someone. Never actually hired someone. What about, if someone, you give them their first job? And that's what we did. We often would give people their first ever professional job. And you need to train them into the culture of working. Imagine if you have someone from a multi-generational environment where they're the first person actually to go into a professional setting. It changes things a little bit. It certainly does. And it's also the other way. People who are so entitled because they're from one generation of another, all professionals, haughty-taughty, snobby, you've got to kind of break them down a bit too. Anyway, guys, the reason I argue for that is because as a small business owner, if it's easier to fire someone, you're more inclined to hire someone. I know too many people that just can't be bothered hiring people. Will do everything they can to offshore it or avoid taking on workers just because of the burden that they place on you. And, sure, big business, they can lobby and change the rules. They can get their crony capitalism going to get an advantage, an unfair advantage to crowd out their competition. They're more nimbler and probably more responsive competition. So it really is not a fair playing field. So let's have a look at this article, guys. Scott Morrison has declared Australia's workplace rules not fit for purpose, but he's outlined a plan to channel Labor hero Bob Hawke's consultation with unions rather than simply bosses. Predicting that more Australians will continue to work from home in the post-pandemic economy, the Prime Minister has warned the old adversarial system of industrial relations will not help create jobs. Well, yeah, that's good. That is a good call, a good insight. It won't help create jobs. I think, as I've argued before, people avoid taking the risks in business. People avoid taking the risks. And every time you hire someone, that is a risk, guys. That is a risk and a cost. You have to pay, make sure your workers paid, your workers' super's paid, everything before anything else. And many small businesses do. And it's tough. It's tough taking on that responsibility, particularly if you have clients that just drag out payments. And if you're in the construction game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Instead, he's announced a proposal to get unions, employers, and government leaders to the table to find consensus on reform. It's a plan that sounded a lot like the Accord agreement that the Hawke government forged with union leaders, including Bill Kelty, in the 80s. Our current system is not fit for purpose, especially given the scale of the challenges of the job that we are now facing as a nation. Our industrial relations system has settled into a complacency of unions seeking marginal benefits and employers closing down risks, often by simply not employing anyone. Yes, that's it. It is a system that has to date retreated to tribalism, conflict, and ideological posturing. Very well said. 100% agree with what he's calling out there. Very good. They will need to this will need to change, or more Australians will unnecessarily lose their jobs, and more Australians will be kept out of jobs. The first step is to get everyone back in the room to bring people together. Yes, I mean, here you go. You get people calling for, oh, we need tariffs, we need Australian manufacturing, yada, yada, yada. But people won't pay for it. People won't take the risk. They'll do everything they can to avoid the risk. No one side has all the answers, employees or employers, unions or employer organisations. It is not beyond Australians to put aside differences to find comparative or cooperative solutions to specific problems, especially at a time like this. Well, I'd argue minimise government and union intervention in the market. That'd be good. How about we try that, guys? How about we try that? I can't see it happening. Too many people like that, have an element of control. Industrial relations reform has proven fraught for the coalition in the past, with John Howard's work choices later playing a significant role in his 2007 defeat. Mr. Morrison has also confirmed he will drop legislation designed to crack down on unions as a show of good faith, to get union leaders, bosses and workers to the table to find consensus on reform options. I mean, guys, this is the thing. You've got a lot of illegal activities that the unions are doing too. I feel like the workers and particularly the small business people just cop it in the end, guys. It's all the big end of town that are the middlemen, that are, the rent seekers that are scraping their little bit off everyone's dollar and cents. We need people to get together and sort this stuff out. As I say, they've been caught in groves for too long, and grooves going in parallel lines and not coming together, Mr. Morrison said. The government will not pursue a further vote in the Senate on its Ensuring Integrity Bill. Not pursuing a further vote, though, I hasten to caution on this bill does not reflect any change or lack of commitment to the principle that lawful behaviour of registered organisations should be strictly required on all work sites in Australia. So they're compromising. ScoMo's getting in bed with the unions. What do you think about that, guys? What do you think about that? Or is it perhaps they're already in bed with them now? And if stuff were to come out, well, it would cast both sides in a negative light. The Prime Minister warned he was not attracted to the idea of the government spending its way out of the crisis. Well, that's not going to work, guys. We're going to pay for it one way or another. Now, it's true that in the short term, demand stimulus by government can boost your economy, he said. But it must only be temporary. At some point, you've got to get your economy out of ICU. You've got to get it off the medication before it becomes too accustomed to it. We must enable our businesses to earn Australia's way out of this crisis. The extent of the damage wrought by the pandemic on the Australian economy and the enormity of the challenge we now face to get Australians back into jobs means the policy priorities for recovery will be different to those in place before the crisis. Mr. Morrison said he would not arrive at the decision with an IR shopping list, or at the discussions with an IR shopping list. It may succeed, it may fail, but I can assure you we're going to give it everything we can. It's been in good faith, and it's been honest, and it requires everyone to leave a bit aside, he said. I'm not going to prescribe it for them. Whatever they've agreed, it's more likely to be sustained and maintained in the future. But what I want them to focus on is an understanding that if there's no business, there's no jobs, there's no income, there's nothing. Well, we'll have to see. We saw with the university sector unions, just in another article, they've got very short-sighted perspectives. It's just built into their DNA. The Prime Minister said he had been heartened by the constructive approach of employees and employers and business groups and unions working together in the ACTU with the government through the pandemic crisis. The Minister of Industrial Relations, the Attorney General, Christian Porter, will lead a new time-bound, dedicated process bringing employees, industry groups, employee representatives and government to the table to chart a practical reform agenda, a job-making agenda for Australia's industrial relations systems, he said. Oh, to me this just all sounds like spin. It all just sounds like spin. They're going to use it for political posturing. We'll see what comes out of it at the end, guys. The Minister will chair 5 working groups for discussion, negotiation and hopefully agreement to produce the Job Maker package in the following areas. Award simplification, what most small and medium-sized businesses deal with in their employees every single day. Enterprise agreement making, we've got to get back to the basics. Casuals and fixed-term employees made even more prescient by recent changes through the Fair Work Commission, compliance and enforcement, and people should be paid properly. And the unions need to obviously do the right thing. So, there you have it, guys. There you have it. The Job Maker package. The unions and coalition getting together. Getting into bed together. What do you think? Where do you think it will lead? Do you think it will lead to anything? Do it will lead to easier workplace rules and relations? Or will it be tribalism and competition? What do you think? Do you think Australia needs to change with regards to our industrial relations? Do you think we need reform? Or are you happy with how it is? Do you think we'll get it? Do you think the average punter would be willing to sacrifice? Or do you think the big end of town will just scrape more off the top for themselves? As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay, or Independent Reserve and KuCoin. You can buy our merch from Heiser Says, support us using Gold Pass from Perth Mint, or via PayPal. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.